Are you calling me with this nonsense again, Mom? I don't have time for your complaints. The line went dead before I could explain that I'd fallen at the Union Square Green Market and couldn't get up. My own daughter had hung up on me while I was lying on the filthy ground between puddles of grimy water and vegetable peels. Today, I'm going to tell you something I never thought I'd tell. And if you, for just a second, feel like this sounds familiar, I only ask that you leave a like and subscribe. It will help me to keep unburdening myself. My name is Helen Peterson. I'm 72 years old, and I've lived my whole life in Brooklyn, in the same neighborhood where I was born. I'm wearing the same gray wool coat my late husband gave me 15 years ago, the one I wear to the market every Tuesday morning. My hands, rough from decades of washing other people's clothes to provide for my daughter, trembled as I dialed Jennifer's number again and again. It was a typical Tuesday in November. The New York sky had that gray hue that promises rain, and I had gone out early to the Union Square Green Market to buy the ingredients for the beef stew my grandson Ethan loved so much, back when he still visited me. I had my shopping trolley, the same one with worn-out wheels that squeak with every step, and my black leather purse that holds my carefully counted bills for the week. In the produce aisle, between Mrs. Carmen's stand and the Morales Brothers fish stall, I slipped on a puddle the fruit vendor had left unmarked. I felt a dry snap in my left hip, like a dead branch breaking. The pain was immediate, sharp, as if 1,000 needles were being driven into my bones at once. I fell. There I was, sprawled out among trampled lettuce leaves and bits of tomato that other shoppers had dropped. My navy blue skirt was stained with mud, and my purse overturned, scattering my few coins across the damp ground. The smell of fresh fish and vegetables mixed with the scent of my cheap perfume, creating a combination that reminded me, paradoxically, of all the markets where I had shopped for decades to feed my family. People walked past me as if I were invisible. Some averted their eyes. Others simply stepped around me as if I were just another obstacle in their morning shopping routine. An old lady mumbled, "Poor thing," but kept walking. A young man in a suit checked his watch and quickened his pace. A girl of about 20, her curly hair tied back in a ponytail and wearing an apron from the deli counter, was the only one who approached. Her eyes had that genuine kindness you hardly see in people's gazes anymore. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you want me to call someone?" I gave her my cell phone, a basic model Jennifer had reluctantly given me last year, telling me it was about time I joined the 21st century. The numbers were saved with simple names: Jennifer, daughter, Dr. Miller, pharmacy. The young woman dialed my daughter's number. I heard the ringtone once, twice, 3 times. Finally, she answered. "Mom? What is it now?" Her tone was already annoyed before she even knew why I was calling. "Honey, I fell at the market. I think I hurt my hip. I can't get up. And what do you want me to do from here? I'm in a huge meeting. Call an ambulance like a normal person. I can't just drop everything because you don't know how to watch your step. I just needed to hear your voice. It hurts so much. I've been on the ground for a while and people..." Click. She hung up on me. The young woman handed the phone back to me with an awkward expression, as if she had witnessed something she shouldn't have. Her cheeks flushed slightly. The ambulance is on its way, ma'am. Don't you worry." But I was worried. Not about the physical pain, which was intense and constant. I was worried about the cold certainty settling in my chest. If I died right here, among the orange peels and wet newspapers, I wouldn't be a priority for anyone. My own daughter, whom I carried in my womb for 9 months, whom I nursed for 2 years, whom I held when she had nightmares, had preferred to hang up the phone rather than interrupt her meeting to comfort her injured mother. While waiting for the ambulance, I remembered the photo I keep on my nightstand. Jennifer at 5 years old, hugging me in Central Park with that smile of small, perfect teeth. "Mommy, when I grow up, I'm going to take care of you forever," she had told me that day while we ate vanilla ice cream on a bench under the chestnut trees. 42 years later, she couldn't even listen to my voice for 2 minutes. The ambulance arrived 15 minutes later, but to me, it felt like 15 years. The paramedics, 2 young men in navy blue uniforms, lifted me with professional care, but without the tenderness a mother hopes for in such moments. They placed me on a stretcher while the market crowd gathered to watch, more out of curiosity than genuine concern. "Do you have any family, ma'am?" one of the paramedics asked while checking my blood pressure. "A daughter, but she's busy," I replied, and the words tasted like ash in my mouth. They took me to Brooklyn General Hospital. During the ride, I watched the Brooklyn streets I knew by heart through the ambulance's small window, the distant glow of Broadway's neon lights, the brick brownstones of my neighborhood, the terraces of cafes where families had brunch together on Sundays. It all seemed alien now, as if I were a tourist in my own city. In the emergency room, they left me on a gurney in the hallway. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and sadness. Beside me, an old man coughed incessantly. A pregnant woman complained of pains. Nurses in white shoes that squeaked against the linoleum floor hurried past, carrying charts and medications. I waited for 3 hours. 3 hours staring at the white ceiling full of water stains, counting the tiles, listening to the constant beeping of monitors in other rooms. Every time a phone rang, my heart leapt, thinking that maybe Jennifer had reconsidered, that maybe she would come for me. But the phone was never for me. A middle-aged nurse with graying hair in a bun and reading glasses hanging from a chain finally approached. "Mrs. Peterson, right? Do you have anyone to call? A family member? A friend?" "I called my daughter, but—" My voice broke. "She's very busy with work." The nurse gave me that look I've seen 1,000 times. Pity mixed with discomfort. It was the same look the neighbors gave me when my husband died 8 years ago. When I was left alone in that 2-bedroom apartment full of memories and silence. "Do you have any other family? Siblings? Grandchildren?" "I have a grandson, Ethan, but he's 17 and—" I stopped. How could I explain that my own grandson no longer had time for his grandmother? That the visits that were once weekly had become monthly, then occasional, until they disappeared completely? They took X-rays. A fractured hip, they confirmed. I would need surgery and weeks of rehabilitation. As they explained the procedure, I could only think of one thing. Who would take care of me? Who would come to see me during my recovery? That night, alone in a room I shared with 3 other elderly women, I couldn't sleep. Not because of the physical pain, though it was constant and sharp. I couldn't sleep because of that other pain, the one that morphine can't cure. The pain of knowing that your own daughter would rather lose you than bother to listen to you for 5 minutes. I remembered all the sacrifices I made for her. When she was little and got sick, I spent entire nights by her side, putting cool cloths on her forehead when she had a fever. I worked cleaning offices for 15 years, waking up at 5 in the morning to pay for the college education she wanted. I sold my mother's jewelry, the only valuables I had, to buy her the wedding dress she had seen in a magazine. When she married David, an architect from a wealthy family, I thought she would finally have the life she deserved. A big house in Scarsdale, a good job at a marketing firm, 2 beautiful children. I thought my sacrifice had been worth it. But little by little, the visits became less frequent. First, she stopped coming on Sundays because the kids have activities. Then the calls became shorter, more impatient. "Mom, I'll call you later. I have to take Ethan to soccer practice." "Mom, I can't now. Emily has her piano lesson." "Mom, I'm at the grocery store. We'll talk tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. One of my roommates, an 80-year-old woman named Eleanor, told me her story as we both stared at the ceiling in the early hours of the morning. "I have 4 children," she said in a hoarse voice. 4. And not one has come to see me in 3 days. One lives in California, another in Florida, the other 2 right here in New York, but they're all very busy. "And how do you keep from going crazy?" I asked her. "You get used to it," she sighed. "You get used to being invisible." But I didn't want to get used to it. I didn't want to accept that after 72 years of life, of raising a daughter, of working until my hands ached, of being a wife, mother, grandmother, I was now just an inconvenience on the schedule of the people I loved most. On the 3rd day in the hospital while waiting to be taken into surgery, I made a decision. I took out my phone and dialed Jennifer's number one more time. This time, she answered on the first ring. "Mom, how are you? Sorry I haven't called. I've been swamped with a project at work and—" "Jennifer?" I interrupted her with a voice I didn't even recognize as my own. "I need to tell you something. Tell me quick, because I have to go into a meeting in 5 minutes." 5 minutes. My daughter was giving me 5 minutes of her time while I was in a hospital, about to have surgery. When I get out of here, we're going to talk. You and me. No rushing, no phones, no excuses. We are going to have a real talk. Yeah, Mom, of course, when you're discharged, we'll set something up. I have to go. They're calling me. She hung up again. But this time, something had changed inside me. I no longer felt just sadness. I felt a strange determination, as if I had made a decision I had been putting off for years. That afternoon, 2 days before my operation, as I looked out my room window at the hospital trees beginning to lose their autumn leaves, something happened that would change everything forever. Something that not even Jennifer, with all her indifference, could ignore. The nurse, Brenda, a small woman in her 50s with kind eyes who had been taking care of me, came into my room that afternoon with a strange expression on her face. In her hands, she held not just my medication, but a white envelope that seemed to glow under the hospital's fluorescent light. "Mrs. Peterson, this arrived for you by certified mail," she said, approaching my bed with slow steps, as if the envelope were something delicate that could break. My hands trembled as I took it. The return address was from the New York State Lottery office. My heart began to beat so hard I thought the hospital monitors would start beeping. With fingers clumsy from nerves, I opened the envelope while Brenda stood by my side, curious. "Dear Mrs. Helen Peterson, we are pleased to inform you that ticket number 47382 from the Powerball drawing on November 15th has been confirmed as the grand prize winner." The letters began to dance before my eyes. I had to read the number 3 times to believe what I was seeing. $94 million. $94 million. Brenda put her hands to her mouth. "Oh my God, Mrs. Peterson, you've won the lottery!" The envelope slipped from my hands and fell onto the white hospital sheets. For several minutes, neither of us could speak. The silence in the room was broken only by the sound of the machines and the hurried footsteps of others in the hallway. I had played those same numbers for 20 years. 7 and 15, my wedding anniversary with Anthony. 23 and 31, the birthdays of my deceased parents. 8 and 42, the day my husband died, 8 years ago. Numbers that held my history, my pain, my most precious memories. And now, those numbers had made me a millionaire. "Are you going to tell your daughter?" Brenda asked, picking up the envelope from the floor and handing it back to me carefully. I remained silent. I looked toward the window where the yellow leaves of the hospital's sycamore trees fell slowly, rocked by the autumn wind of New York. Would I tell Jennifer? The same daughter who had hung up on me when I fell? The one who gave me 5 minutes of her time while I was hospitalized? "I don't know," I finally answered. "I don't know yet." That night I couldn't sleep, but for the first time in days, it wasn't because of the pain in my hip. It was because of a strange feeling I couldn't name. It was as if the universe had decided to play a cosmic joke on me. At the lowest point of my life, when I felt most alone and abandoned, I had become one of the wealthiest people in the country. I thought about everything I could do with that money. I could buy Jennifer the house of her dreams, pay for my grandchildren's private college education, take the whole family on vacation to those exotic places I saw in the hospital magazines. I could be the generous grandmother who solves all her loved ones' financial problems. But then I remembered my daughter's cold voice hanging up the phone, and something hardened inside my chest. The next day, after my successful surgery, Brenda came to see me during her break. Word had spread among the hospital staff, and several nurses and doctors stopped by my room to congratulate me with genuine smiles that I hadn't received from my own family. "Have you called your daughter to tell her?" Brenda insisted as she helped me sit up in bed. "Brenda," I said, taking her hand, "do you have children?" "Yes, 2. A 25-year-old boy and a 22-year-old girl. And do they call you often?" "Almost every day. Sometimes to ask me to cook something for them. Sometimes just to tell me about their day. Last Sunday, they both came over with their partners for lunch." Her words were like daggers. I felt a mix of envy and sadness so deep that I had to look away. "My daughter hasn't called me once since I've been here," I confessed. "She doesn't even know I had surgery yesterday." Brenda squeezed my hand tightly. "Maybe if she finds out about the prize." "Do you think she should call me just because of the money?" I interrupted. "Do you think a mother should have to buy her children's love?" Brenda became thoughtful. Then she said something I'll never forget. "Mrs. Peterson, sometimes life gives us exactly what we need to find out who truly loves us." For the next 3 days of recovery, I didn't tell anyone else about the prize. I watched the interactions between other patients and their families, husbands arriving with flowers, children sleeping in uncomfortable armchairs to stay with their parents, grandchildren drawing get-well cards with colored crayons. My bed remained visitorless, flowerless, cardless. I only had the occasional company of Brenda and Dr. Hernandez, an older man who had operated on my hip and reminded me of my late husband with his gray mustache and paternal way of speaking. On the 4th day, Eleanor, my roommate, had a visit from her youngest son, a man in his 40s who apologized profusely for not coming sooner, explaining problems with work, traffic, family responsibilities. But he had come. He was there, holding his mother's hand, asking her how she felt, if she needed anything. I pretended to be asleep while I listened to them talk. The son told her about his children, about his wife's new job, about their plans for Christmas. Eleanor smiled in a way I hadn't seen her smile since we'd been sharing the room. When he left, Eleanor turned to me. "You know what the saddest part is, Helen?" "What?" "He came because I told him I was dying. I had to lie about my condition to get him to visit." Her words hung in the thick air of the room. We both knew it wasn't a complete lie. At 80 years old in a hospital, you're always a little closer to death than to life. That night, as Eleanor slept and I watched the lights of the city glitter through the hospital window, I made a decision that would change everything. I took out my phone and texted Jennifer. "Honey, they're discharging me tomorrow. I've been doing a lot of thinking these past few days. We need to talk. There are important things I have to tell you." The reply came 3 hours later. "Okay, Mom. I can stop by for a little while next Saturday afternoon. Are you all right?" A little while. To talk about important things after her mother had been in the hospital for a week. I deleted her number from my favorites list. I didn't know yet what I was going to do with the $94 million, but I knew for sure what I wasn't going to do. I was not going to use it to buy the love I should have gotten for free. For the first time in years, I fell asleep with a strange sense of control over my own life, as if I had finally woken up from a very long dream. Saturday arrived with that fine, persistent rain that characterizes New York autumns. From the window of my Brooklyn apartment, I watched the drops slide down the glass like tears the sky was shedding for me. I had woken up early, despite the pain still in my hip, and had cleaned the apartment in a way I hadn't since before the accident. I arranged the sofa with the cushions Jennifer always criticized as being too old-fashioned, put water on to boil for tea, and took out the shortbread cookies I knew she'd liked since she was a little girl. The winning ticket was tucked away in my dresser drawer, next to her childhood photos and the letters she wrote me from school when she went on field trips. Jennifer arrived at 4:30, half an hour late as always. I heard her coming up the stairs talking on the phone, her voice echoing in the old building's stairwell. When I opened the door, the phone was still pressed to her ear. "Yes, David. I'm telling him not to forget to pick up Emily from ballet. I'm at my mom's, but I won't be long." She kissed my cheek without looking me in the eye, with that perpetual haste that defined her. She was wearing a beige wool coat that must have cost more than my pension for 3 months, and her dyed blonde hair was styled in that perfect bob that you can only get at high-end salons. "How are you, Mom? You look better than when I called you from the hospital." She sat on the edge of the sofa without taking off her coat, constantly glancing at her Apple Watch as if it were a time bomb about to go off. "I'm fine, honey. Thanks for asking." I served her tea in the porcelain cups that had belonged to my mother, the ones I only brought out for special occasions. Jennifer looked at them with the expression she'd had since she was a teenager, as if it were a social chore to drink tea from such outdated cups. "What did you want to talk about? Your text sounded so dramatic. I hope it's nothing serious because honestly, I have an impossible week ahead. Ethan has final exams, Emily is starting extra English classes, and at work they've given me a project that—" "Jennifer," I interrupted her gently, "do you know when the last time you asked me how I was without me calling you first?" She was quiet for a moment, the cup halfway to her lips. "Mom, I don't know where this is coming from. You know I love you very much, but my life is very complicated. The kids, work, the house. It's not that I don't care, it's that I don't have time for… For what? For your mother? Don't say that. It's not fair. Her voice took on that defensive tone I knew so well. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. David works crazy hours. I have to juggle everything to get it all done. The kids need constant attention. I need attention too, Jennifer. She stood up abruptly from the sofa, walked to the window, and stared out at the street. Her reflection in the rain-streaked glass made her look like a stranger. You know what? This is exactly what I don't need right now. Drama. Emotional blackmail. Guilt trips. She turned to me, her eyes bright with frustration. What do you want me to do, Mom? Quit my life to be at your beck and call 24 hours a day? Bring the kids over every Sunday so you can feel important? Her words hit me like physical slaps. I sat in my chair, feeling something definitively break inside my chest. I just want you to call me once in a while to see how I am. Just that. I do call you. Not every week because I can't, but I call. The last time we spoke before my fall was a month ago, Jennifer. A whole month. Oh my God! She ran her hands through her hair, messing up her perfect hairstyle. Are you going to keep a log of my calls now? Seriously? I'm 42 years old, Mom. I can't be checking in with you like I'm a teenager. She moved to pick up her handbag, a designer purse I recognized from the shop windows on Fifth Avenue. Her movements were sharp, irritated. You know what? It's getting late. The kids are waiting for me for dinner, and David has a work dinner. We can continue this conversation another day. Another day? When? In a month? In 2? When I can, Mom. When I have time. She headed for the door, but I had one last question to ask. One that had been burning in my throat for weeks. Jennifer, do you love me? She stopped with her hand on the doorknob. For a few seconds, that felt like hours. She didn't move. Then she turned to me, and for the first time since she had arrived, she looked me directly in the eyes. Of course I love you, Mom. You're my mother. But you don't like me, do you? The question caught her off guard. I saw her mouth open to protest, but the words wouldn't come out. You don't like me as a person, I continued. You find me boring, a nag, old-fashioned. I'm a chore to you, not a choice. That's not… It's true, Jennifer. And you know what the worst part is? That I spent years telling myself you were just busy, that it was a phase, that when the kids grew up we'd have more time. But the truth is, you just don't want to spend time with me. The tears I had been holding back for weeks began to roll down my cheeks. Jennifer stood by the door, motionless, as if she didn't know what to do with her mother's sadness. Mom, Go, I told her softly. Go to your children, your husband, your important life. I'll be here when you decide that maybe I'm worth 5 minutes of your time. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? I wiped my tears with the handkerchief I always kept in my apron pocket. Is it dramatic to want my daughter to listen to me? Is it dramatic to expect her to visit me when I'm in the hospital? Is it dramatic to ask you to treat me with the same respect you'd show a stranger at the supermarket? Jennifer opened the door and stood in the doorway. The sound of the rain intensified, creating a melancholy soundtrack for our broken conversation. I'll call you during the week, she said finally. Don't do it out of obligation. Mom, I mean it, Jennifer. Don't call me because you feel guilty. Call me when you actually want to talk to me. If that day ever comes. She left without another word. I heard her heels clacking down the stairs, walking away from my life once again. I sat in my living room, surrounded by the cooling tea and the untouched cookies, feeling an emptiness so profound I thought it would swallow me whole. That night, I took out the lottery ticket and placed it on the kitchen table. $94 million stared back at me from that piece of paper, like a promise of a power I had never had. For the first time since I'd won, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was not going to call Jennifer and tell her. I was not going to rescue her marriage, or pay for my grandchildren's college, or buy her love with expensive gifts. I was going to wait, to see how long it would take before she realized her mother no longer needed her. 3 weeks passed without my phone ringing. 3 weeks in which I woke up every morning hoping to hear the ringtone I had assigned to Jennifer's contact, and went to bed every night with the same silence. During that time, my life had become strangely orderly. I had coffee and toast for breakfast while watching the news, went for walks in the park when my hip allowed, and spent the afternoons reading romance novels I borrowed from the neighborhood library. But there was something different about my routine. Every day, after lunch, I would take out the winning ticket and place it on the kitchen table. I would look at it for long minutes, as if it were a mirror showing me a version of myself I didn't fully know yet. $94 million. A number so large my mind couldn't quite process it. I had started making mental lists of everything I could buy: a bigger house, new clothes, vacations to places I had only seen in magazines. But every time I imagined these things, I saw myself enjoying them alone. What was the point of having a beautiful house if no one came to visit? Why have elegant clothes if I had no one to share a special dinner with? On the Wednesday of the 4th week, while watering the plants on my balcony, I heard familiar voices on the street. I looked down and saw Ethan, my grandson, walking with some friends toward the park. He was wearing the blue backpack I had given him for school last year, and his brown hair had grown to cover part of his eyes. At 17, he was already taller than his mother. "Ethan!" I shouted from the balcony. He looked up, saw me, and waved, but he didn't stop. His friends pulled him toward the park, and in seconds he disappeared among the trees. He hadn't come up to see me. He hadn't even asked how I was after my accident. That same day, I decided to do something I had been putting off for weeks. I called the bank. "Chase Bank, good morning. How can I help you?" "Good morning, my name is Helen Peterson. I need information on how to claim a lottery prize." "Of course, ma'am. What is the amount we're talking about?" $94 million. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I'm sorry? Could you repeat the amount?" $94 million. "I see. I'm transferring you to our wealth management department. One moment, please." Over the next 40 minutes, I spoke with 3 different people. They explained about taxes, investments, private accounts, financial advisors, words that sounded like a foreign language to someone who had lived her whole life on a $600 a month pension. "Mrs. Peterson, do you have family? Trusted individuals who can accompany you during this process?" the VIP account manager finally asked, a man who spoke with that excessive politeness banks use when they smell money. "I have a daughter," I answered automatically. "Excellent. We strongly recommend that you come accompanied when you process the claim. These types of transactions can be overwhelming." After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen, the ticket in my hands, thinking about that question. Did I have family? Technically, yes. Legally, yes. But in practice, I had been living for a month as if I were a complete orphan. That night, I couldn't resist the temptation. I dialed Jennifer's number. It rang 5 times before she answered. "Mom? Did something happen? It's really late." It was 9:30 at night. "Hi, honey. I just wanted to see how you are." "Seriously? You're calling me at this hour just to ask how I am?" Her tone was a mix of surprised and irritated. "I'm fine, Mom. The kids are doing homework. David is watching football. Everything's normal. And how are you?" "Tired. Like always." I heard background noise, probably the TV. "Are you okay? You sound strange." "I'm fine. I just wanted to hear your voice." There was an awkward pause. "Mom, are you sure nothing's wrong? Because honestly, it's been a very long day and I have to get up early tomorrow to take Emily to the dentist." "No, nothing's wrong. Have a good night." "You too. Talk soon." She hung up before I could reply. I was left with the phone in my hand, feeling even lonelier than before the call. Talk soon. Another one of those empty promises she had become an expert at making. The next day, I decided to go to the bank. I dressed in my best outfit, a navy blue suit I had bought for my niece's wedding 5 years ago, and had only worn since for special occasions like funerals and communions. I combed my hair carefully, put on the pearl earrings that had been my mother's, and left the house feeling strangely powerful. The bank was a modern building in Midtown Manhattan, all glass and marble, with an elegance that intimidated me as soon as I walked through the door. A young receptionist, with perfectly straight hair and a suit that probably cost more than all my pre-prize savings, greeted me with a professional smile. "Good morning. How may I help you?" "I'm Helen Peterson. I have an appointment with Mr. Martinez about a lottery prize." Her smile widened noticeably. "Of course. Mr. Martinez is expecting you. Please, follow me." She led me down a carpeted hallway to an office with a view of the city skyline. Mr. Martinez was a man in his 50s, with an impeccable suit and a smile that radiated the confidence of someone who had handled fortunes his whole life. Mrs. Peterson, it's a pleasure to meet you. Please, have a seat. Can I get you some coffee? Water? A coffee, please. While we waited for the drink, Mr. Martinez reviewed some papers on his desk. $94 million, he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. A considerable sum. Have you thought about your plans for the money? Not yet. I understand. It's normal to feel overwhelmed at first. Do you have children? Family you'd like to benefit? The question landed like a weight in my stomach. I have a daughter and 2 grandchildren. Wonderful. Many of our clients in your situation decide to establish trust funds for their families. Secure the grandchildren's education? Purchase properties? No, I interrupted with more firmness than I expected. I haven't decided anything about my family yet. Mr. Martinez looked at me with curiosity, but was professional enough not to press further. Of course. Let's take things one step at a time. First, we need to verify the ticket and process the payment. After taxes, you'll be left with approximately $58 million. $58 million. It still sounded unreal. For the next hour, I signed papers I didn't fully understand, provided identification documents, and listened to explanations about investments and accounts that sounded like science fiction to someone used to counting pennies to make ends meet. When I finally left the bank, with a new credit card in my purse and the certainty that in a week I would have access to more money than I had ever dreamed of, I felt strangely empty. I walked down the busy avenues, watching families strolling together, couples holding hands, groups of friends laughing as they window shopped. They all had someone to share their small joys and future plans with. I had $58 million. And no one to celebrate with. The first transfer arrived on a Tuesday morning. $58 million appeared in my bank account with the same normalcy as my $600 monthly pension used to. But this time, when I checked the balance at the neighborhood ATM, I had to read the number 3 times to make sure it was real. $58,000. For several minutes, I just stood in front of the machine, the receipt trembling in my hands, while people rushed past me on their way to work. An elderly woman I recognized from the market greeted me with her usual, "Morning, Helen," never imagining she was talking to one of the richest women in New York. I walked back to my apartment through the familiar Brooklyn streets, seeing everything with new eyes. Manny's Diner, where I had my $1.50 coffee and toast. Mrs. Carmen's corner store, where I bought my bread every morning. The newsstand where Juan saved my weekly gossip magazine for me. Everything was the same, but I felt like an imposter in my own life. At home, I took out the old notebook where I had always tracked my monthly expenses and wrote a new list. Not of expenses, but of possibilities. Things I can do now: buy a big house, travel the world, buy elegant clothes, eat at expensive restaurants, help Jennifer with her mortgage, pay for Ethan and Emily's private college, buy new cars for everyone. But as I wrote each point, a voice in my head whispered the same question. For what? To be alone in a bigger house? To eat alone at expensive restaurants? To help a daughter who doesn't even call me? That afternoon, I decided to do something I had never been able to afford. I went to Macy's on 34th Street and bought new clothes. Not the practical cheap clothes I usually bought, but elegant dresses, leather shoes, a wool coat that cost more than 3 months of my old pension. The sales clerk, a young woman with a friendly smile, treated me with an exaggerated courtesy when she saw I didn't hesitate to buy expensive items. "Ma'am, you have exquisite taste. This outfit looks perfect on you. Are you wearing it for a special occasion?" "For every day," I replied, surprising myself with my own answer. How wonderful. A woman who values herself. Values herself. The words echoed in my head as I walked home loaded with elegant shopping bags. When was the last time I had valued myself? When had I spent money on something that wasn't strictly necessary? When I got to my building, the superintendent, Mrs. Pilar, looked at me curiously. "Helen, you look so elegant. Been shopping?" "Yes, I bought a few little things." "You look great. Younger. Did you go to the hairdresser too?" I hadn't, but something had changed in my posture, in the way I walked, as if the $58 million had straightened my spine and lifted my chin. That night, I tried on all the new clothes in front of the bedroom mirror. The navy blue dress made me look slimmer. The beige coat gave me a distinguished air. The new shoes made me feel taller, more confident. But when I sat down to eat my vegetable soup at the kitchen table, I was still alone. On Thursday morning, my phone rang. It was Jennifer. "Hi, Mom. How are you?" My heart sped up. For a moment, I thought maybe she had decided to call me simply because she had thought of me. "I'm fine, honey. How are you?" "Fine, fine. Listen, I'm calling because Saturday is Emily's birthday. My granddaughter who's turning 15, and well, things are a bit tight financially. David had some unexpected car expenses, and Emily wanted to have a party with her friends." There it was, the real reason for her call. "And? Well, I was thinking maybe you could help us out with something for the party. We don't need much, just about $300 for the catering and decorations. We'll pay you back next month, of course." $300. An amount that once would have been half my monthly pension, and was now less than what I had spent on a single dress that afternoon. "Does Emily know you're asking me for money?" "What? No, Mom, that's not something I discuss with the kids. It's grown-up stuff. And when was the last time Emily called me? Or that Ethan came up to see me?" "Mom, they're teenagers. They have their own things, their friends. I was a teenager once too, Jennifer. And I never stopped talking to my mother. Times have changed, Mom. Kids today are different. Or maybe you've taught them that Grandma isn't important." There was a long pause. "You know what? Forget it. I don't know why I thought you could help without making it a drama. We'll figure something else out." "Jennifer, wait." "What?" "I'll give you the $300. "Really?" "Oh, Mom, thank you. I knew I could count on you. I promise. But on one condition." "What's that?" "I want Emily to come and ask me for it personally." "What?" "I want her to come here, to my apartment, and ask me for the money herself. I want her to explain what she needs it for us to talk for a bit, like grandmothers and granddaughters used to do." "Mom, that's ridiculous. Emily is very busy with school, her friends." "Then there's no money." "Mom, it's my only condition, Jennifer. If her grandmother's money isn't important to her, then her grandmother shouldn't be either." "I can't believe you're being so difficult." "I'm not being difficult. I just want to get to know my granddaughter. You know her. What's her favorite color? What music does she like? What does she want to study? Does she have a boyfriend?" Silence. "You see," I continued, "you don't know your daughter as well as you think. And I don't know my granddaughter because you never let me." "Fine," she said finally, with a resigned sigh. "I'll tell Emily to go see you. Don't tell her it's for money. Tell her that her grandmother wants to see her." "Whatever." She hung up without saying goodbye. I was left with the phone in my hand, feeling a strange mix of triumph and sadness. For the first time in years, I had set a condition. I had used my money as leverage to get what I really wanted: time with my family. But at the same time, it hurt to know that I needed money to buy 5 minutes of my own granddaughter's attention. That night, I took out an old photo of Emily when she was 5. She was sitting on my lap in Central Park, smiling toothlessly because she had just lost her baby teeth. We were both laughing at something I no longer remembered, but our expressions of happiness were identical. When had I stopped being the fun grandma and become the ATM grandma? And more importantly, was it too late to get back the granddaughter who had once adored me? The next day, I bought ingredients to make French toast, Emily's favorite dessert when she was little. If I was going to use my money to buy time with her, I would at least make sure it was quality time. For the first time in months, I had something to look forward to. Emily arrived on Friday afternoon, 2 days before her birthday. I watched from the window as she walked down the street with that typical posture of teenagers who would rather be anywhere else. She was wearing tight jeans, an oversized pink sweatshirt, and sneakers I recognized as being very expensive. Her light brown hair, just like mine at her age, fell over her shoulders in perfect waves that you can only get with a professional flat iron. She came up the stairs slowly, as if each step were torture. When I opened the door, I was struck by how much she had grown since the last time I had seen her up close. She was no longer the little girl I remembered, but a young woman who looked so much like her mother at that age that my stomach lurched. "Hi, Grandma," she said with the forced politeness teenagers use with adults they're not interested in. "Hello, my girl. You look so beautiful. Come in, come in." She stood in the doorway looking around my apartment as if she were seeing it for the first time. And maybe that was true. How long had it been since her last visit? A year? More? Do you want to sit down? I made you French toast, like when you were little. Okay. She sat on the edge of the sofa, her purse on her lap and her phone in her hand. I can't stay long, actually. I have to help with my party preparations tomorrow. An awkward silence fell. I looked at her, searching for traces of the little girl who used to spend entire afternoons with me drawing princesses and watching Disney movies. She looked at me as if I were a stranger with whom she had to fulfill a social obligation. How's school going? I finally asked. Fine. A typical teenage monosyllabic answer. What are your favorite subjects? I don't know. Literature is okay, I guess. Like your mother? She was always good at writing. Emily shrugged and checked her phone. Do you have a boyfriend? She looked up with an expression that was part surprised, part mortified. Are you seriously going to ask me that? A grandmother's curiosity. You used to tell me everything. I was 8 years old then, Grandma. She was right. But it hurt to hear that clear line drawn between then and now, as if there was a specific date when I had stopped being important in her life. I went to the kitchen and brought in the freshly made French toast, with cinnamon and maple syrup just how she liked it. The sweet smell filled the living room, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of recognition in her eyes. Do you remember when we used to make this together? I asked, serving her a portion on the porcelain plate with flowers that had always been her favorite. A little, she admitted, taking a bite. This is good. You used to help me beat the eggs. You always got it all over your clothes and your mom would get mad at me. She smiled slightly, the first genuine gesture since she had arrived. I remember I dropped an egg on the floor once and cried because I thought you were going to be mad. And I told you it didn't matter, that broken eggs can be cleaned up, but moments with Grandma can't be gotten back. Her smile faded a little. We both knew there was a painful irony in that sentence. Grandma, she began, but then stopped. What is it, my love? Why did Mom tell me to come over? I know it's not just because you wanted to see me. The direct honesty of a teenager. Sometimes it hurts more than the polite lies of adults. What do you think? I think she needs money for my party, and you said I had to be the one to ask for it. I remained silent, impressed by her perceptiveness. And does that bother you? I asked. A little. It's weird, you know? Like it's a punishment to come see my own grandmother. Her words broke my heart. I had inadvertently turned time with me into a business transaction, something to be endured to get a reward. You're right. That was a bad idea of mine. No, it's not that. She shifted uncomfortably on the sofa. It's just, I don't know how to talk to you anymore. Why not? Because I feel like we don't know each other. Before, when I was little, it was easy. We watched cartoons, we played, you told me stories. But now, I don't know what you like, what you do all day, what you think. Her honesty completely disarmed me. And would you like to know? She shrugged, but there was genuine curiosity in her eyes. I guess. Over the next hour, something magical happened. We started to really talk. I told her about my walks in the park, about the novels I was reading, about Mrs. Pilar from downstairs who always had gossip about the building. She told me about her friends from school, about her literature teacher who had made her love books, about her plans to study journalism. Journalism? Like your grandfather, I said, remembering that my late husband had worked for a local newspaper. Really? Mom never told me that. Your grandfather wrote articles about local sports. He wasn't famous or anything, but he loved telling stories. Tell me more about him. And I did. I told her about how I met her grandfather at a neighborhood dance, about how he courted me for months before I agreed to go out with him, about how he brought me flowers every Friday even though we didn't have much money. Does Mom know these stories? She asked. Some of them, but she's never wanted to listen. Emily frowned. Why not? Your mom is very busy with her life. She doesn't have time for old people's stories. That's stupid, she said with the bluntness of a 15-year-old. Family stories are important. I felt something loosen in my chest. For the first time in years, someone in my family seemed to value what I had to offer. You know what, Grandma? What? I like it here. I'd forgotten how quiet your apartment is. At home, it's always noisy. Ethan with his video games, Dad watching football, Mom on the phone for work. And you? Where do you fit in all that noise? Sometimes I feel like I don't, she admitted, like I'm invisible. Her words resonated with me with devastating force. My 15-year-old granddaughter felt invisible in her own home, in the same way I felt invisible in my own family. I feel invisible sometimes too, I confessed. Really? Very much so. We sat in silence for a few minutes, eating French toast and processing this unexpected connection. Grandma, can I ask you something? Anything you want. Why does Mom never talk about you? I mean, she mentions that she has to call you or visit, but she never tells fun stories about things you do together or stories about when she was little. It was a question I had asked myself 1,000 times. I don't know, my love. Maybe because when we grow up, we sometimes forget where we come from. That's sad. Yes, it is. Emily put her fork down on the plate and looked me straight in the eye. You know what? I don't want the money for the party. What? I don't want it. I'd rather have a smaller party, a simpler one. But I want to keep coming to visit you. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. Really? Really? But not because Mom makes me or because you need something. Because I want to get to know you better. For the first time in months, I smiled with a complete and genuine joy. That would make me very happy, Emily. Me too, Grandma. When she left that afternoon, I sat in my living room feeling something I had forgotten: hope. I had $58 million, but what I had just gained was priceless. I had gotten my granddaughter back. On Saturday night, while Emily was celebrating her birthday with a more modest party at her parents' house, I was in my kitchen preparing dinner for two for the first time in months. I had bought ingredients to make paella, the dish Emily had asked me to teach her how to cook when she came to visit next weekend. My phone rang while I was peeling shrimp. Mom? It was Jennifer, and her voice was tense. Hi, honey. How's the party going? Fine, fine. Listen, Emily told me you talked to her about not wanting the money for the celebration. That's right. It was her decision. Mom, I don't understand what you're doing. First, you give me strange conditions. Then you get to my daughter with weird ideas about simple parties, and I don't know what family stories. What stories? I don't know. Things about Grandpa, about when you were young. Emily was asking me all week why I never told her Grandpa was a journalist, that you two met dancing. I sat down on a kitchen chair, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. And what did you tell her? That it's all in the past, that it doesn't matter now. It matters to Emily. Emily is a romantic teenager. She gets emotional over any love story. And that's a bad thing? Jennifer sighed with exasperation. Mom, I don't want to sound cruel, but what's the point of filling Emily's head with nostalgia? Grandpa died 8 years ago. She barely remembers him. That's precisely why it's important for her to know who he was. For what? So she can get melancholy over a man she didn't even really know. So she understands where she comes from. So she knows her family has a history, that there was true love, that... I stopped, realizing what I really wanted to say. So she knows that it's possible to love and be loved deeply. She already knows that. She has parents who love her. Do you love her? Or do you just keep her busy? The silence that followed was so long I thought she had hung up. What do you mean by that? She finally asked, her voice dangerously calm. Emily told me that sometimes she feels invisible in her own house. She told you what? That between your work? David's work? Ethan's activities? There's always noise but never conversation. I can't believe you'd ask a 15-year-old girl those things. I didn't ask her. She told me, because for the first time in years, someone sat down and listened to her. We listened to her. When was the last time you sat down with Emily, with no TV, no phone, no agenda, just to talk? Another long silence. Mom, I don't know what game you're playing, but I don't like it. It's not a game, Jennifer. This is real life. You know what? I'm done with this conversation. Emily is my daughter, and I'll decide how to raise her. Of course. But Emily is also my granddaughter, and she decides if she wants to know her grandmother. Please don't manipulate her. The word manipulate hit me like a slap. Manipulate? Listening to my granddaughter is manipulating her? Telling her stories about her grandfather is manipulating her? Cooking with her is manipulating her? You know exactly what I mean. No, I don't. Explain it to me. You're using guilt to get Emily to visit you. You're telling her that we don't listen to her, that you're the only one who understands her. I didn't tell her any of that. She came to those conclusions on her own. Because you led her there. Or because it's true, Jennifer exploded. That's it. I'm not going to let you call me on my daughter's birthday to criticize how we're raising her. I didn't call you to do that, Jennifer. You called me. To tell you about the party. No, to ask me for money. Like always. That's not true. Really? When was the last time you called me without needing something? The silence stretched so long, I started counting the seconds. Mom, her voice sounded different, smaller. It's not that I don't love you. It's just… What? It's just that I find it hard to talk to you. For the first time in that conversation, I felt she was being honest. Why? Because I always feel like I'm not enough for you. That I don't visit enough. That I don't call enough. That I'm not the daughter you expected. Her words stunned me. In all these years of feeling rejected by her, I had never considered that maybe she also felt judged by me. Jennifer, I never… Yes, you do, Mom. There's always a hint about how lonely you are, about how little we see each other, about how other mothers have more attentive children. She was right, and I knew it. You're right, I admitted. I have done that, and I'm sorry. Really? Really. But I also want you to understand something. What? That loneliness makes a person say desperate things. That when you feel invisible, sometimes you scream just to see if anyone will listen. But I do listen to you, Mom. Do you listen to me, or do you put up with me? Another long pause. I don't know the difference. The difference is this conversation, Jennifer. For the first time in years, we're actually talking, not just exchanging information about schedules and obligations. I heard background noise, music, children's voices, the sounds of a birthday party. I have to go, Mom. The guests are arriving. Wait. What? Can we meet next week? Just the two of us? No rush? No agenda? What for? To try and get to know each other again. There was a pause, and for a moment I thought she would say no. Okay, she said finally. I can do Wednesday afternoon. Perfect. But Mom… Yes? No guilt trips, okay? Nothing about how lonely you are or what a bad daughter I am. Agreed. But you don't get to call me dramatic. For the first time in months, I heard her laugh. A real laugh. Deal. After hanging up, I sat in my kitchen, looking at the paella ingredients I had bought for Emily. For the first time, I had 2 important appointments in my calendar. Cooking with my granddaughter on the weekend, and talking with my daughter on Wednesday. I took out my old notebook and crossed out the list of things I can do now that I had written after winning the lottery. In its place, I wrote a new one. Things I am going to do: get to know Emily better, reconnect with Jennifer, stop trying to buy love with money, stop using guilt as a tool, learn to be a grandmother and a mother without conditions. For the first time since I'd won those $58 million, I felt I had a plan that had nothing to do with spending money. It had to do with spending time and love and patience, and maybe, just maybe, truly getting my family back. Wednesday arrived with a gentle rain that fogged up the windows of my apartment. I had spent the morning getting ready as if for a first date. I put on the navy blue dress I'd bought at Macy's, did my hair with more care than usual, and even put on a little lipstick. When I looked in the mirror, I saw a woman I didn't completely recognize. Elegant, serene, with a dignity I didn't remember having before. Jennifer arrived at 4 on the dot, which was unusual for her. I watched from the window as she walked down the street with her perpetual hurry, but when she came up the stairs, her steps sounded different. Slower, more thoughtful. When I opened the door, we looked at each other for several seconds without speaking. She had also dressed up more than usual. She wore elegant black pants and a white blouse that made her look older, more serious. Hi, Mom. Hi, honey. Please come in. She sat on the sofa, but this time not on the edge as usual, but all the way back, as if she intended to stay a while. She didn't take out her phone. She didn't look at her watch. She just looked at me. You look different, she said. Different how? I don't know. You seem… stronger. I served tea in my mother's porcelain cups, but this time she didn't complain about how outdated they were. She held one in her hands as if she were really seeing it for the first time. These cups are beautiful, she commented. I'd forgotten how delicate they are. They were your grandmother Hope's. She gave them to me when I married your father. Did you ever tell me the story of these cups? Many times when you were little, but I guess you weren't interested. Tell me now. And I did. I told her how my mother had saved for months to buy me this tea set as a wedding gift, how she had chosen it because it had tiny hand-painted roses that reminded her of the garden of her childhood in Virginia. I told her how every time we used them, my mother would say that beautiful things weren't meant to be kept in glass cabinets, but to make everyday moments beautiful. Jennifer listened without interrupting, gently tracing the rim of her cup. "Why do I never pay attention when you tell me these things?" she asked when I finished the story. "Because," she paused, thinking, "because I always felt like you were telling them to me as lessons, as if there was a hidden moral about how I should be a better daughter or a better mother." Her answer surprised me with its honesty. "And now?" "Now it just sounds like a beautiful story about my grandmother." We sat in silence for a few minutes, drinking tea and watching the rain continue to fall outside the window. "Mom, I want to ask you something, but I don't want you to get angry. Ask me anything. Are you lonely?" The question was simple, but the answer was complex. "Yes," I admitted. "Very lonely. And do you blame me for that?" "Sometimes. And that's wrong of me." "Why do you do it?" "Because you're all I have, Jennifer. When your father died, you became my only real family. And when I feel like I'm losing you too, you're not losing me, Mom." "Am I not? When was the last time you told me something important about your life? Asked my opinion on something that was worrying you? Wanted to spend time with me because you felt like it, not because it was an obligation?" Jennifer dropped the cup on the table and covered her face with her hands. "I don't know when it stopped being easy to talk to you. When was it easy? When I was a little girl. When I'd come home from school and you were always here, in this same kitchen, making an after-school snack. You'd ask me how my day was, and I'd tell you everything. What my friends said, what we learned, who I played with at recess. And I listened to every word as if it were the most important thing in the world." "Yes, but when I grew up..." "Oh, what happened when you grew up?" "You stopped asking how my day was and started asking why I hadn't called sooner, why I didn't visit more often, when I was going to bring the kids over." She was right. Completely right. "At some point I stopped being interested in your life and started obsessing over your absence," I admitted. "Yes. And you stopped wanting to share your life with me because you felt I was only going to judge you." Exactly. We looked into each other's eyes, and for the first time in years, there was no defensiveness or blame between us, just a mutual recognition of how we had reached this point. "How do we fix this?" she asked. "I don't know, but I think it starts with this conversation." "Mom, I want to tell you something." "I'm listening." "David and I are having problems." My first impulse was to give advice, ask questions, get intensely involved in her problem, but I held back. "Do you want to tell me about it?" "It's nothing dramatic. We're not getting a divorce or anything like that. But we don't talk anymore. We live like roommates who share expenses and responsibilities, but not like a husband and wife who choose each other every day." "And how does that make you feel?" "Lonely. Ironically, I feel lonely in my own marriage." "Have you tried talking to him?" "Of course, but he says it's normal, that after 15 years of marriage and with 2 teenage kids, it's normal for the passion to fade a bit." "And what do you think?" "That maybe he's right, but it terrifies me to think that this is my life for the next 30 years. I stayed quiet, processing the fact that my daughter was entrusting me with something so personal and important. "Thank you for telling me," I said finally. "You're not going to give me advice? Do you want me to?" "I don't know. Maybe I just wanted someone to listen." "Then I'm just going to listen." Something in her expression changed. Her shoulders relaxed, as if a weight had been lifted. "I'm also scared the kids won't need me anymore. Ethan is barely ever home, and Emily is starting to have her own life. Sometimes I feel like my only function is to be a chauffeur, a cook, and an ATM." "I know that feeling," I said softly. "You do?" "Yes. It's exactly how I've felt with you for years." We looked at each other, and, surprisingly, we both started to laugh. "We're a mess, aren't we?" Jennifer said. "A little bit," I admitted. "But maybe we can be a mess together instead of alone." "I'd like that." "Me too." Jennifer leaned back on the sofa, and for the first time in years she looked comfortable in my home. "You know what Emily told me the other day?" "What?" That she wants to spend more time with her grandmother because with you, she feels truly heard. And how did you feel when she told you that? Jealous, she admitted, and then guilty for feeling jealous of my own mother. It's normal to feel jealous, but we could also look at it another way. How? Emily is lucky to have a grandmother who listens and a mother who cares about her feelings. She doesn't have to choose between us. Do you think we could do this? Do what? Be a real family again. Not perfect, but real. For the first time in months, I felt a genuine sense of hope. I think we could try. Jennifer stayed until 8 o'clock that evening. We talked about everything. Her fears about her marriage, my years as a widow, how to raise teenagers in the 21st century, how much she missed her father. When she left, she gave me a real hug. Not the quick, obligatory hug from before, but a long one. Like the kind I gave her when she was a little girl and came home sad from school. Mom, can we do this more often? I'd love that. No agenda, no obligations, just talk. Yes. That night, before going to bed, I updated my list in the notebook. Things I am learning. Listening is more powerful than advising. My daughter feels lonely too. Stories connect more than accusations. I'm not losing my family, I'm finding it again. For the first time since the lottery, I went to sleep without thinking about the money. I had something far more valuable. A daughter who had started to trust me again. 2 months had passed since that rainy afternoon with Jennifer, and my life had taken on a completely new rhythm. Wednesdays had become our day. She would come by after work. No rush, no phone, just to talk. On Sundays, Emily would show up in the afternoon with her school books, do her homework at my kitchen table while I cooked dinner, and then tell me about her friends, her teachers, her dreams of being a journalist like her grandfather. My Brooklyn apartment, which for years had been a silent, melancholy refuge, now had life again. My mother's porcelain cups were used regularly. There were fresh flowers in the living room vase, and the kitchen always smelled of something freshly baked. The $58 million were still in the bank, almost untouched. I had spent some on clothes, on better ingredients for cooking, on small but meaningful gifts for Emily. Nothing extravagant. Nothing that would draw attention. One afternoon in January, while Emily and I were making meatballs, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. May I speak with Mrs. Helen Peterson? This is she. My name is Patricia Vance, a producer for the show New York Live on Channel 4. Do you have a few minutes to talk? Emily looked up from the mixture she was rolling, curious. What is this about? We've learned that you won a major lottery prize a few months ago, and we'd like to invite you on our program to tell your story. It's a segment we do about ordinary people who've had extraordinary strokes of luck. My heart pounded. How had they found out? I don't know what you're talking about. I lied. Ma'am, we have confirmation from the bank and the lottery commission. $94 million, is that correct? It must have been incredible. Emily stopped rolling and stared at me, her eyes wide. I had never told her about the money. I'm not interested in appearing on television, I said. Thank you for the call. Ma'am, please reconsider. It's an inspiring story. An elderly widow who suddenly becomes a millionaire. People need these stories of hope. I said no. I hung up the phone with trembling hands. Emily was staring at me. Grandma, did you win the lottery? I couldn't lie to her. Not after everything we had built together. Yes. How much? A lot of money, Emily. A lot. She sat down in a chair, her hands still covered in breadcrumbs. When? 4 months ago. Right after I fell at the market. And you haven't told anyone? No. Not even Mom? Not even your mother? Emily was quiet for several minutes, processing the information. Why didn't you tell her? Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? That people would only love me for the money. Emily nodded slowly, as if she understood perfectly. And now? Now what? Are you still afraid? The question made me think. Was I still afraid? Jennifer had come back into my life without knowing about the money. Emily came to see me every Sunday because she genuinely enjoyed my company. We had rebuilt our relationships on a real foundation, not a financial one. Not as much anymore, I admitted. But I also don't know what to do with this information now. What do you want to do? I want my family to love me for who I am, not for what I have. Grandma, Emily said with the wisdom teenagers sometimes have, we already love you for who you are. The money doesn't change that. Are you sure? Completely sure. That night, after Emily left, I lay awake thinking about the call from the TV station. If the media already knew, it was only a matter of time before it became public. And if it became public, Jennifer would find out in the worst possible way. The next day, Thursday, I called her. "Hi, Mom. Everything okay? It's not Wednesday," she said in a teasing tone. "Jennifer, I need to tell you something important. Can you come over this evening?" "Did something bad happen?" "No, it's not bad, but it's important." "Okay. I get off work at 6. I can be there by 7. I spent the day mentally preparing for the conversation. How do you tell your daughter you've been a millionaire for months without telling her? How do you explain that you didn't trust her reasons for loving you? Jennifer arrived on time, but she had a worried expression. "Mom, you've had me on edge all day. What's going on? Sit down, please." She sat on the sofa, in the same spot where she always sat now during our Wednesday chats. "Do you remember the day I fell at the market?" "Of course. It was horrible. I was terrible to you. Something else had happened that same day. Something I didn't tell you." "What?" I took out the original lottery ticket, which I had kept framed in a drawer. I had won this. Jennifer looked at the paper, not understanding. "What is it?" "A winning lottery ticket." "For how much?" $94 million. The color drained completely from her face. She sat motionless for at least 30 seconds, staring at the ticket as if it were an alien object. "Is this a joke?" "It's not a joke." When was the drawing?" "The day before my fall. I found out while I was in the hospital." "And you didn't say anything?" "No." "Why?" There it was. The question I had been dreading. "Because I was afraid you would change, that you would only see me as a source of money." Jennifer stood up from the sofa and started pacing the living room. "I can't believe this. I cannot believe you would think that of me." "Jennifer, for months, Mom, I've been telling you my problems, my fears about my marriage. I've opened up to you in a way I haven't in years, and this whole time you thought I was so shallow that I would only love you for your money. That's not it." "Yes, it is." She stopped in front of me, her eyes glistening with angry tears. "You know what hurts the most? I was starting to trust you again. I thought we had finally found a way to be a real mother and daughter, and we have. That's why I'm telling you now." "Now? Why now and not 4 months ago?" "Because a TV show called me yesterday. The news has been leaked. It's going to be in the media." Jennifer sat down abruptly, as if her legs couldn't support her. "So you're not telling me because you trust me. You're telling me because you have no other choice." "No, Jennifer. I'm telling you because I know now that our relationship can survive this news." "How can you be so sure?" "Because these past few months have shown that we can love each other without conditions, without me using guilt as a weapon, and without you visiting me out of obligation." Jennifer covered her face with her hands. "I need time to process this." "I understand. Does Emily know?" "She found out yesterday, by accident." "And what did she say?" "That we already loved you before we knew about the money. And the money doesn't change that." Jennifer looked up. "She's 17, Mom. It's easier for her." "What's easier?" "Not to feel betrayed." The word betrayed hurt me physically. "You feel betrayed?" "Yes," she admitted. "I feel betrayed and confused and also relieved." "Relieved?" "Because I finally understand why you've been so strange these past few months. So different. More sure of yourself. The money gave me security, that's true. But what gave me my life back was you and Emily." Jennifer was quiet for a long time. "You know what the most ironic part of all this is?" she said finally. "What?" "That these have been the best months we've had in years. And they were real, without any money involved." "Exactly. That's why I knew I could tell you now. But it hurts that you didn't trust me from the beginning." "I know. And I'm sorry." Jennifer sighed deeply. "Mom, this is going to change everything." "It doesn't have to." "Really? You think when people find out you're a multimillionaire, everything's just going to stay the same?" For the first time, I realized she was right. My quiet, rebuilt life was about to get very complicated. The story broke in all the major outlets on Friday morning. The Brooklyn Grandma Millionaire, from pensioner to Powerball princess. The prize that changed a life. My photo, taken without my permission as I was leaving the bank months ago, was on the front pages of newspapers and websites. In a matter of hours, my name and face were known across the country. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Journalists, TV producers, representatives from charities, and even people claiming to be long-lost relatives I had never met. I unplugged the landline and silenced my cell phone, but the calls kept coming. From my window, I could see reporters and news vans parked on the street. Some of the building's residents were talking to them, telling them what little they knew about me. That I was a widow, lived alone, was very discreet. Mrs. Pilar, the superintendent, came up to see me on Saturday morning. "Helen, this is a madhouse. I've got at least 10 reporters downstairs asking for you. Is it true about the prize?" "It's true, Pilar." "My goodness. And why didn't you say anything? Do you know how many times I've seen you counting out change for your groceries?" "Because I didn't want anything to change." "Well, honey, it's changed now. It's a zoo out there." She was right. My quiet, private life was officially over. On Sunday, Emily came as usual, but had to use the back entrance to avoid the journalists. "Grandma, this is insane," she said as soon as she arrived. "You're all over social media. There are memes about you. They've given you nicknames. The Golden Granny. The Invisible Millionaire. How's your mother?" "Weird. She hasn't left the house in 2 days. Says she doesn't want reporters harassing her asking about you." "And Ethan?" "He's thrilled. His friends think it's cool to have a famous, rich grandma." Emily paused. "You know people are offering money for photos of you? For stories about what you're really like?" The thought horrified me. "Emily, I need to ask you something important." "Anything. Don't talk to any journalists, no matter what they offer you. Our family is private, understand?" "Of course, Grandma. But I have to ask you something." "What? What are you going to do with all that money?" It was the question I had been avoiding answering, even to myself, for months. Honestly, I don't know. At first, I thought about buying things, helping the family, traveling. But now what? Now I realize that the only thing I ever really wanted, I already have. A real relationship with you and your mother. Emily smiled. "You know what I think?" "What?" "You should do something that means something. Something that helps people like you. Like me, how? Elderly people who feel lonely, who feel invisible." Her words hit me. In all my thinking about the money, I had never considered using it to help people in my same situation. On Monday morning, I decided to do something I hadn't done in days. Leave the apartment. I put on my most elegant coat, fixed my hair, and walked out the front door, completely ignoring the journalists who swarmed me with cameras and microphones. "Mrs. Peterson, how does it feel to be a millionaire? Are you going to move? Are you going to help your family?" I walked without answering, with the dignity I had learned to have these past few months. My destination was the neighborhood senior center, a place I knew well because I had considered joining several times when the loneliness was too heavy to bear. The director, a middle-aged woman named Carmen Morales, greeted me with surprise. "Mrs. Peterson, I've seen you on the news. How can I help you?" "I want to learn more about the programs you have here, for seniors who live alone." "Of course. Are you interested in participating?" "I'm interested in helping." For the next hour, Carmen showed me the facilities. I saw men and women my age playing cards, doing crafts, participating in gentle exercise classes. But I also saw the reality: old facilities, limited resources, long waiting lists for the most popular workshops. "What's the biggest challenge you face?" I asked. "Funding," she answered without hesitation. "We have the demand to triple our programs, but we don't have the budget. Many seniors can't afford private activities, and public funding is very limited." "What would you need to expand the programs?" Carmen looked at me curiously. "Why do you ask?" "Because I think I can help." That Tuesday night, Jennifer came to see me. It wasn't Wednesday, our usual day, but the circumstances had changed everything. "How are you handling all this?" she asked. "It's overwhelming, but also revealing." "Revealing how?" "It's showing me what's really important to me." "And what's important to you?" "You guys, our family, and doing something useful with this opportunity life has given me." Jennifer sat next to me on the sofa. "I've been thinking a lot these past few days. And I think I understand why you didn't tell me at first." "You do?" Yes, because I had given you reasons to doubt me. I had treated you like an obligation, not like my mother. Jennifer? No, let me finish. These last few months have been different. We've been different. And you're right. Our relationship can survive this news because now it's based on real love, not on need or guilt. I felt my eyes fill with tears. Does that mean you forgive me? It means we both have to forgive each other. You, for not trusting me, and me, for giving you reasons not to. We hugged, and for the first time since the news broke, I felt at peace. Mom, can I ask you something? Anything. What are you going to do now? With the money, the fame, all of it. I've been thinking about that, and I think Emily gave me the answer. What did she say? That I should help people like me. Elderly people who feel lonely. Jennifer smiled. That sounds just like you. What do you think? I think it would be a perfect way to use the money. Have you thought of anything specific? A foundation. To fund programs for seniors, community centers, activities that fight loneliness. Do you know how to do that? I have no idea, but I can learn. Do you want some help? The question surprised me. What kind of help? I work in marketing. I know about communications, about how to reach people. I could help you design the programs, promote them. You would do that? I'd love to. It would be like us working together for the first time. For the first time since winning the lottery, I felt I had a real plan for the money, not just to spend it, but to invest it in something that mattered. You know what excites me most about all this? I told her. What? That we're going to do it together. You, Emily, and me. We finally have a project in common. You think Emily will want to be involved? She's the one who gave me the idea, and she's studying to be a journalist. She could help with the stories, document the foundation's impact. Jennifer smiled. The 3 women of the family working together. Exactly. For the first time in months, the future didn't scare me. The money had been a surprise, but what I had truly won was far more valuable. I had gotten my family back, and now we were going to use my good fortune to help other families from getting lost, the way we almost did. The lottery had given me millions of dollars, but love had given me something priceless, a purpose. 6 months after my story became public, the Hope Peterson Foundation was a reality. We had chosen that name in honor of my mother, who had taught me that beautiful things were not for display cases, but for making everyday moments beautiful. Jennifer had designed the logo, a steaming teacup surrounded by intertwined hands, symbolizing the warmth of companionship and human connection. Our offices were in a renovated building near Prospect Park, but I still lived in my Brooklyn apartment. The journalists had lost interest after the first few weeks, and my neighborhood had returned to normal. Mrs. Pilar no longer looked at me with wide-eyed amazement, but with the same old affection, though now she would proudly add, Helen, from the foundation, when introducing me to new neighbors. Emily had started writing for the foundation's blog, documenting the stories of the seniors who participated in our programs. Her article about Mr. Fernando, an 80-year-old widower who had found a new passion for painting in our art workshops, had been shared thousands of times on social media. But it hadn't all been easy. With the money and notoriety also came the vultures. False relatives claiming kinship, scammers with fake projects, people who wanted to get close to me only for financial gain. I had learned to spot them quickly and to maintain a polite but firm distance. One afternoon in July, while reviewing proposals for new community centers in my office, my assistant Elena announced an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Peterson, there's a young man here who says he helped you on the day you fell at the market. His name is Fernando Ruiz. My heart sped up. Fernando was the young man who had helped me when no one else would. I had been trying to find him for months to thank him, but I couldn't track him down. Send him in immediately. Fernando entered my office shyly. He was younger than I remembered, maybe 25. With dark hair and those same kind eyes I recognized instantly. Mrs. Peterson, I don't know if you remember me. Of course I remember you. I stood up to hug him. You're the angel who helped me when everyone else walked by. I wasn't an angel. I just did what any decent person would have done. But as it turns out, not just any person did, only you. Fernando blushed. I've been following the news about your foundation. It's incredible what you're doing. Fernando, I've been looking for you for months. I want to thank you somehow. You don't need to thank me for anything. Seeing what you've done with your life is reward enough. Tell me about yourself. What do you do? Do you have family? Fernando smiled sadly. I work in a warehouse, mostly night shifts. And no, I don't have family here. I'm from Ecuador. I've been in the States for 3 years. You're alone? Yes, but I'm used to it. My family is in Quito. I help them out with what I can. Why didn't you come sooner? Why didn't you contact me? Because I didn't want you to think I was coming for selfish reasons. When you became famous, a lot of people came forward saying they knew you, that they had helped you. I didn't want to be just another one of them. His words moved me deeply. Here was the personification of genuine kindness. The man who had helped me without expecting anything in return. Fernando, I want to offer you something. Ma'am, you really don't have to. It's not charity. It's an opportunity. I need someone to coordinate our field programs, to visit seniors in their homes, to be the link between the foundation and the community. Someone with your sensitivity and your heart. Fernando looked at me, stunned. Are you serious? Completely serious. The salary would be 3 times what you're making at the warehouse, with full benefits and the possibility of bringing your family over when you're ready. I saw his eyes fill with tears. I don't know what to say. Say yes. And that you'll start on Monday. Fernando covered his face with his hands. Mrs. Peterson, you changed my life the day I helped you. Even if you don't realize it. How? Because for months, I couldn't forget the look of pain on your face. Not just physical, but emotional. The way your daughter hung up on you. It made me realize how many of us are alone in this city. I started visiting with an elderly neighbor in my building, Mr. Ramon, who was also alone. And how is Mr. Ramon? Much better. We play dominoes on Sundays now, and sometimes we cook together. Little things that make life more bearable. You see, Fernando, you already have experience in what I need. You're perfect for this job. That afternoon, I called Jennifer and Emily to tell them about Fernando. Is he the guy from the video people took? Emily asked excitedly. I have to interview him for the blog. That sounds perfect, Mom, Jennifer said. Someone who truly understands loneliness can do a better job of fighting it. There's something else, I told them. I've been thinking about expanding the foundation. How? I want to create a special program to reconnect families. Workshops for adult parents and children. Spaces for families to learn to communicate better. Jennifer was quiet. Based on our experience? She finally asked. Exactly. If we could rebuild our relationship, other families can too. It's a brilliant idea, Mom, but also very personal. That's why it will work. Because it comes from real experience, not from a textbook. Emily joined the conversation. We could call it Family Bridges, and I could document the stories of reconciliation. I like that, Jennifer said. But are you sure you want to put our story out there so publicly? Our story could help other mothers and children who are going through the same thing we went through. That night, alone in my apartment, I reflected on the journey I had taken. A year ago, I was an invisible woman, abandoned by my own family, with no hope that things would change. Now I was running a foundation that had already helped hundreds of seniors find companionship and purpose. But more importantly, I had a family that truly loved me. Jennifer came to see me twice a week now, not just on Wednesdays. Sometimes she brought David, and they had started couples therapy after our conversations about the importance of communication. Emily spent weekends with me regularly, and we had developed new traditions, cooking together on Saturdays, reading books, and discussing them on Sundays. Even Ethan had started visiting. It turned out that my millionaire grandma fame had given him some status among his friends, but when he came out of curiosity, he stayed out of genuine affection. Now he helped me with the foundation's social media, and had suggested creating a YouTube channel where seniors could share their life stories. My phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was Jennifer. Mom, are you awake? Yes. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. I just wanted to tell you something. What is it? That I'm proud of you. Of what you've done with your life, with the money, with us. You are? I am. And I also wanted to say I'm sorry. For what? For all the years I thought your loneliness was your fault. For not understanding that a mother sometimes needs to be taken care of too. It doesn't matter anymore, honey. Yes, it does. It matters because I want you to know that I get it now, and you will never be alone again. Thank you. Mom? Yes? I love you. Not for the money, not for the foundation, not for anything you do. I love you because you're my mother, and you're an incredible woman. After we hung up, I sat in my kitchen, looking at my mother's porcelain cups that we now used regularly. The lottery had given me millions of dollars, but true love had given me something infinitely more valuable. It had given me back my family, and together, we were helping other families find each other too. Sometimes life gives you exactly what you need, just when you thought all hope was gone. And sometimes, what you need isn't money, it's a second chance to get things right.